My name is Alex Richa. I did my presentation over pacem and terris, which translates to peace on earth. It was written by Pope John the 23rd. The church's teaching on this is that the dignity of a human person and the fact that the human person is social by nature. 5 important teachings I took away from this is that there's order in human beings, the rights pertaining to moral and cultural values, God and the moral order, the question of propaganda, 5, the right to worship God according to one's conscience. Okay, the first teaching, order in human beings. It is said at the very beginning, man shall the work of the law written on their hearts, their conscience bears witness to them. And this is basically saying that the Father of the universe has inscribed them on man's nature. It described them in man's nature. It also states that there should be a relationship between the members of the state and their officials. And then one of the last things I took away was man's primary goal is that there is a long-lasting worldwide community of nations to be established, which is basically saying that there should be a unity between men and nations, but there should be no force involved in the unity. Second teaching is rights pertaining to moral and cultural values. 1, man has the natural right to be respected. Some other things that they have the natural right to is bring good to their name, investigate the truth within the limits of moral code, and the freedom of speech and publication. And we also have the right as man to choose to do whatever profession we desire. We also have the right to a good education and technical professional training. And to expand on that, there's an overall goal that everyone has the right to an education, and if there's anyone needing a higher level of education, their one must be provided for them. God and the moral order. The order in which prevails in human society is the foundation of truth. It must be brought into effect by justice. It must be perfected by man's love for one another while preserving freedom. We find the source to many things true through the transcendent God. He is the first true, sovereign good, and the deepest source of human society. St. Thomas said, "Human reason is a standard which measures the degree of goodness of human will, and such it diverges from the eternal law in which divine reason. Hence it is clear that the goodness of human will depend much more on eternal law than on human reason," which is basically saying truth takes more than the goodness of human, but more in human reason and what comes from that. The question of propaganda. This has been a way for nations to spread accomplishments between each other. The church says this does not mean you can't draw attention to particular progressions. However, they do say by doing this, it violates the principles of truth, of justice. It could also ruin the reputation of other nations. Basically, the whole reasoning behind this is that nations are allowed to use propaganda, but should not be used against evil or to bring down the reputation of other nations. Finally, the rights to worship God according to one's conscience. It first states we are able to worship God and profess his religion in a private or public setting. And then one quote says, "This is the very condition of our birth, that we render to God who made us that just homage which is his due. We acknowledge him alone as God and follow him. It is from this luxury of piety which binds us to join us to God that religion deserves his name," which is basically saying that God is our creator and we must give back to him and give thanks to him because he is the one that brought us here. And Pope Leo the 13th declared, True freedom worthy of the sons of God is the freedom which most truly safeguards the dignity of human person. It is stronger than any violence or injustice. Such is the freedom which has always been desired by the church and which she holds most dear. It is a sort of freedom which the apostles resultantly claimed for themselves. The apologists defended in their writings. Thousands of martyrs consecrated it with their blood. And kind of to end things off here, what I took most from this encyclical is that we have many rights as men to just kind of live our lives, do what is good for us, and we have the right to our religion and to worship whenever and wherever we want to. Thank you, and that was my presentation.